Hey, Jeremy, welcome to the Preconstruction Podcast.
Hey, how's it going?
Good,
Thanks for
good.
having me.
You're welcome, you're welcome. For our listeners and our audience here, today we have Jeremy Rowe, Principal at Ragona Architecture and Design, most commonly known as RAD in Charlotte. So, Jeremy, tell me a little bit about RAD and about your architecture firm in Charlotte.
Yeah, so RAD is actually, so we were started in 2015 here in Charlotte, but it used to be a firm called DMR Architects. So I think a lot of people in Charlotte are familiar with that firm. They were around for about 30 plus years, doing a lot of, mainly focused in retail. So one of the major projects here in town that everyone would know about is the Epicenter. The owner of this firm is actually the architect of record for the Epicenter in Uptown Charlotte. So pretty large retail, mixed use, complicated building that's downtown that everyone has at least probably gone to once or twice. But in 2015, the principals there at DMR started to retire, and Matt Ragona, the owner here, went ahead and bought the firm and rebranded it to Ragona Architecture and Design. And our acronym is RAD, so we go by RAD Architecture a lot. And so one of the lessons learned from both of our backgrounds, I come from a background where we mainly did university work, and then he came from a background where it was mainly in retail. We decided to really diversify our portfolio and the projects that we're going to go after. So RAD does a little bit of everything. We're mainly doing, of course, we keep on doing retail and mixed use. We do office, hospitality, restaurants, wellness, automotive, and even residential. So there isn't really a project that we're going to turn down. We're kind of doing a little bit of everything, and that's really helped us, keep moving through, especially during these times. We also implemented another part of our firm where we do specialized architectural services, which is mainly getting into the BIM coordination and working with general contractors and subcontractors, helping them with their virtual design and construction.
Brilliant, yeah, because that's a huge market right now. That's on the lips of everyone. Talk to me about BIM and VDC. How important has it been, and how important will it become within architecture and design? Because we're talking about models, we're talking about architects pumping out models with so much detail. Is that what you're seeing right now? Is that what clients are looking for right now? Is that what the GCs are looking for right now? And what do you expect in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so for us on the architectural side, I mean, we're all about the building information modeling. Everything we do here at RAD is, everything is in 3D. It doesn't matter what project we're working on. It just helps not only us visualize the project and understand what we're doing. It always helps the client. There's only so much information you can imagine from a 2D drawing. So being able to show the model to clients and have interactive meetings with them to, actually be inside the model. And, if they don't like something while we're in the meeting, we can move doors or move walls and windows and let them visualize it in an interactive way. And, so from a client standpoint, they're more and more expecting to see this visualization service. On the GC side, we're oftentimes giving our model over, at the end of our construction documents. When a GC is selected, we're giving them our 3D model so that they can also facilitate their shop drawings and everything else that they need to do, but it helps them visualize. They can put it into their software to, get into their virtual design and construction, whatever aspect that is for them. During construction, there's always some kind of detail somewhere that nobody can visualize or see, and it's real quick to just go into the model and talk about it and discuss. So that's where we're kind of at the moment, with that technology. For us in the office, building information modeling is all about being efficient. I come from, my background goes all the way back to hand drafting, doing CAD, and then now 3D modeling. And I can't tell you how many hours I wasted trimming and extending lines. And I should be really thinking about the design of the project. And talking about design options. So that's really been the best thing that I've seen in our side. As far as like where it's going in the future, I would say, I don't know, in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm really excited about how all of this technology is eventually connecting to other technology that's like robots, like drones. And there's a lot of experiments out there where they're getting robots out there to try to transfer the information from a digital model and then have it automatically build a wall or something.
Yeah.
I know that's a long time out there that's really going to really come into mainstream. But things like augmented reality, where we can just you can hold up your device and kind of visualize what is actually going to look like on the land, your actual model being built in real life.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of possibilities that are out there that I see coming.
Good. Yeah. If you get a chance, we did a great podcast with a lady called Noni Pittinger, and she did digital fabrication using robotics, and fascinating. Now, I have to say, when you're listening to it, a lot of it was going over my head, but she was fantastic. They did a project. I think it was a theater, a Lions Theater in Atlanta, and they digitally fabricated the whole. It was almost the whole interiors, but it was all done with wood, and it's a fascinating story. And she gives a real insight into it now, and it's happening. I know it's kind of a little bit further down the line to becoming a norm, but it definitely is happening, and it's great to see. Because even if I bring it back to that whole the BIM, one of the key things with the three-legged stool, as we call it, is the client, the architect, and the construction manager, or the general contractor. The collaboration and the communication, has BIM improved that? And how do you see that improving? Because to me, and speaking with the GCs quite a lot, and the owners, that is the key for everyone. Getting collaboration, getting not live, but real-time information across to each person as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so when it's all together and we're all in that one model, the general contractors usually have their Navisworks model or whatever platform they're using that the architect is uploading their model to. All the subcontractors, a lot of the projects that we've been involved with our specialized services, is that even the subcontractors that are going into the project also have to provide their shop drawings as a 3D model. And they're working out all the clashes and all the issues ahead of time in the virtual world before it's actually getting installed. So the owner can peek in and see exactly what's going on, what the problems are, what the issues might be. And everybody's working together on one platform to kind of figure it out before it's actually being built. And everyone's in the field, scratching their heads, trying to figure out what happened. The one thing I will say is that all this technology is great with that three-legged stool, but in the end, the person that's actually installing everything that's in the field, they also have to have the technology. Because I've been involved in some projects where we do all of this virtual design and construction, and in the end, the guy that's laying out the mechanical ductwork, not to pick on him, but he didn't really follow what was in the virtual design plan, and just started installing, kind of like how he was used to doing it. And then all of that work that we went into, trying to do all the coordination, just doesn't work anymore, because now, he put it in the wrong place. So of course he had to go back and fix it. But, those are the kind of things that I see that eventually in the field, everyone who's in the field has to also be part of that technology and have means to figure out how to lay it out.
And it's amazing, Jeremy, because we always talk about the general contractor getting involved at the early stages of design with the architect, but now it's literally come to a stage where the subcontractor is now getting involved at that stage as well. So it really is a team effort.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And that's actually where we come in with our specialized services. Is we found that more and more of the subcontractors are being obviously asked to provide this level of detail in 3D models. And, these guys that have been out there, for 30 years doing this on a daily basis, they don't really have that kind of expertise to model what they're actually installing. So We just come in, we take over that part of the project for them, and then give them shop drawings that say, this is everything that we've coordinated in the virtual design world, and this is what you need to install, and it should all work out. And they've come back to us and said, that process, it works out really well for them, because they're not having to have a lot of issues where, they got to work it out themselves in the field. It's already worked out. They have a level of efficiency, and they're able to install things at a quicker pace. And I think that's what you're seeing in the construction industry is, I think buildings in general perhaps are being constructed quicker, that are using these, kind of the latest and greatest technology for figuring all this stuff out in the VDC world.
Right time. I totally agree with you. And obviously, the speed and cost are the two big things. And when it comes to cost, especially the general contractor, the guys that you really collaborate with early on and maybe do a design build project with, how much does it affect the cost, and how much of a saving does it get the client?
Yeah, so, I don't know specific numbers, but I've heard that because of the, anytime you can shave off time off of a construction schedule, you're saving money. So obviously the quicker you can do it, the less the overhead and the costs and the general conditions are going to be for a project. I worked on a university project probably back in 2008, where we did design build, and we had the contractor in at the very early age, or part of the project, and we were doing kind of bid packages based off of our BIM model. We were still designing, but we were issuing a foundation package, and they were building it, and then we were doing the core and shell, and they were building it. It was kind of like this integrated process that way. And we were able to build I was trying to think of the square footage, but like a 80,000 square foot laboratory building for Colorado State University within a year. And
Wow.
Our design time was also within that construction time. So, that's just kind of the speed where you're not having to wait for the designer to finish, work on it for a year, and then hand it over to the contractor and they work on it for a year. So, that kind of timeline just kind of meshes together. And I think that helps get the client to get their building done quicker, and then they can start operations and start making whatever money they are off of the project.
Do you see that becoming more popular, Jeremy? Because I've talked to Daryl Torres again on the podcast, who's over in Clark on the West Coast, and he used a similar kind of, it's almost design as you build or design as you go. How time consuming is it? I mean, it sounds as if you need to be really engaged on a daily basis.
Yeah, so I mean, I see that mainly happening is really for like a lot of the really large scale projects that I see that happening a lot. And we're actually involved again with those subcontractors in projects that are similar to that. But I guess what I see is, or how that process usually worked was on a weekly basis for us during the design phase, we were uploading models every Friday to the GCs, either it was a BIM 360 or BIM track or whatever software platform. But every Friday we're uploading our model, and they're doing their part, doing takeoffs and looking at the model as well, and kind of going from there on a weekly basis. So on a design side, it was a weekly thing. Once you get into construction, I mean, you could be meeting 2 times a week, going over all those type of components.
Yeah, and I can imagine. I'm just putting myself in the estimator shoes and the general contractor every Friday, looking at the screen through my fingers, going, what's changed? What's changed now? Where's the estimates coming out of? But I mean, as long as there's some sort of conceptual estimate at the very beginning, I wouldn't imagine it changes too much.
Yeah, so normally what happens is a GC, if they're started at the very beginning, they would do like a estimate that would be a general maximum not to exceed price, like a GMP.
Yeah.
And everything that changes plus or minus is constantly, as we develop the model or the design, if we start to accelerate our cost, obviously they start to tell us early on what we need to start cutting back on. And that also does save the time where at the end of the project, you're not trying to cut out, hundreds of thousands of dollars in something that you maybe the design creep kind of went up and above and beyond. um, those are the kind of things we typically saw throughout that process.
Good, brilliant. And we touched on it prior to recording here, but the design and build, that seems to be, you were mentioning the risk on the general contractor side. They do like to get involved early on. What methodology are you seeing as the most popular for your firm?
Yeah, so there have been cases where we've actually done design build, like I've mentioned, but more and more we're starting to see that the general contractors, at least in our area, are kind of shying away from design build because of the liability that's involved with that, because basically they're taking on all the risk of the design team under their belt. And they would, I think in all aspects, people want to kind of keep the liabilities kind of separate. So we are seeing a lot more of what you've probably heard is the IDP process, or the integrated design process, where GCs are coming on board from the very beginning and being part of that process. But we're again just working all in that three-legged stool instead of all under their belt.
Brilliant. Yeah, it wouldn't be like the GCs. Do we want to get involved early and not take any risk, would it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't blame them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it exactly. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it. But
Yeah.
and then give us an idea of Charlotte at the moment. I mean, I was there. I think I mentioned to you, I was there last year for about 5 weeks, and there was cranes everywhere. It was booming. Obviously, COVID. We're right in the middle of COVID. How do you see the outlook post COVID?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, you were here about a year ago. We had probably like 8 cranes, just in Uptown all over the place, and moving down some of the corridors, that come into Charlotte. They're really starting to develop quite a bit. During COVID, right now, there were a lot of projects that were already under construction, so those are continuing. So there's still a lot of especially multifamily, just everywhere. I guess we're getting a lot of influx of people moving to Charlotte. So there's definitely a lot of multifamily that's still under construction on a daily basis, road closures everywhere. Post-COVID, it's hard to tell, but there's, at least in our firm, and what I'm hearing around town is projects are still in the design phase. We're still working on projects that are, slated to be constructed in the near future. Some clients have maybe slowed down a bit on their urgency of when they want the project, done, but we're still working on them. So, I see that there might be a little bit of a slowdown, as we move into maybe the spring, but the projects are still going to be constructed. And who knows, if, all goes well and everything clears up with COVID, I think there'll just be a big boom where everyone just picks everything off the shelf and starts building. Crazy.
To be honest with you, Jeremy, that's what I'm fearful of. The backlog will just be pushed. I mean, there's talk of clients just kind of waiting it out to hopefully the subcontractors drop their prices a little bit, and then there'll be a massive explosion. But I just hope that doesn't happen, because the lack of resources that were there pre-COVID are just going to be exaggerated.
Oh yeah, and you're seeing that with material costs. Here, I don't know about the rest of the country, but here in Charlotte, our lumber prices are just going up like crazy, just because of production, and also a lot of people were buying out that material. At least with a lot of the multifamily that's going around here.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I've got. And give us an idea, because a lot of our listeners they're based all over the US, but we do relocate a lot of people to the Charlotte area and the Southeast in general. Give us an idea, away from kind of work, what's it like in Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like kind of living here.
Yeah. Things to do, living there, maybe bringing a young family to there. Because I couldn't believe last year, I lived in a place called Perth, Australia, so Western Australia, for 2 years back in 2012. And I couldn't believe the amount of kind of 20-year-olds to 40-year-olds that were in the area. But I got the same feeling when I went to Charlotte. It was a huge, and I think at that time, so it was mid-year last year, there was like 50 or 60 people a day moving to Charlotte. Like it was that sort of influx. What is there to do in Charlotte? How cool is it? I mean, I loved it personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think just outside of business, the city is just growing like crazy. I don't know what the where we stand in the fastest growing cities in the United States, but I know at one time we were somewhere in the top 10. But with all the people that and activity that is just here in the city, the one thing that is really great is the location of Charlotte. We're literally like maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours from the mountains. So if you want to go up to the mountains, stay in a cabin, go whitewater rafting, or whatever, hiking, that's kind of a big thing. Going up to the mountains is like only 2 hours away, or you can go the other direction, 2.5 hours away, and you're at the beach. Going down to Myrtle Beach down in South Carolina and things like that. So, that's a good location. And then you got the big city feel. There's the whitewater centers here, a lot of outdoor activity, and the restaurant scene, before COVID-19 was just booming everywhere, places to go at night, the nightlife was great. So, I mean, it's a real exciting place to be. And one thing I really like about it is every part of Charlotte, kind of like even like New York City, has its own like pockets of, just kind of the vibe and the feel. You have Plaza Midwood that's real kind of trendy, and a lot of the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds like to go there to hang out. A lot of breweries around Charlotte. You just name it. There's something to do. A lot of activity.
Brilliant, love it. Yeah, no, I can vouch for all of that. I'm trying to convince my wife to move down there, but she's more of a city lady. But
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. Yeah. So give me an idea now, Rad. What is the plans for the next 5 to 10 years? Obviously, post-COVID, coming out of this, there's going to be a construction tsunami. Do you see you guys targeting a specific sector, trying to get in with certain developers? What's the plans?
Yeah, so I think for us, again, since we started in 2015, we've really been building up our portfolio of work. And at this moment, we're trying to get to that next level where, in our background, in my background and also the owner's background, we have a lot of really large scale projects that we used to do. And, starting out with a firm, it's hard to get back up to that level. You have to kind of work your way back up. So I think our next big thing is really, we're in the hospitality market now, and we're looking to get to that next level hotel, where we're doing like, high-rise hotels, or even, mixed use type of projects that are multi-story. Right now we've got a lot of 4-story projects that are out there, and we'd like to get to that next level where, like Matt Ragona, the owner, he worked on that Epicenter. And it's got, 3 or 4 floors of retail and then hotels above it. And, that's kind of the level we eventually want to get to. But, we're real focused, again, still keeping in that mixed use, retail, hospitality. One thing that we see a lot is we help out clients with, you hear about retail and you think about malls all around the United States. And, people still own those malls, landlords still own those projects. And, you hear about the retailers downsizing or moving out. So we got to repurpose those, those type of buildings. So we're real involved with coming up with other ideas of what to do in those type of spaces, how to redivide them, even in shopping centers around the United States. How do we repurpose a lot of these buildings? And I think that's going to come a lot with even out of COVID-19 is, now that everyone's more comfortable working from home, I'm not sure how all the office spaces that are around all these cities, are we going to have to start thinking about repurposing a lot of those type of spaces as well?
Yeah,
so
it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, it probably you're probably right. If you come up with an innovative design or architecture firm that comes up with a good idea, because I mean you're talking about a lot of city centers there. I mean, it's not a case of 1 or 2 industries. That's the city centers, malls, and office space and apartment buildings. So it's an exciting space, and if you can get your niche or your name in there and recognized as repurposing, then you've got a nice little runner, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Good man. All right, Jeremy. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it. I know our listeners will be delighted to hear the architecture view when it comes to the 3-legged stool and what's happening at RAD and in Charlotte. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Good man. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right, appreciate it.